Hello, dear students. Are you ready for our English class? Are you someone who wants to learn English? If yes, this episode is perfect for you. Hi, I'm teacher Rhizter and I will be the module English instructor. I'm an English teacher with 5 years teaching experience. With this episode, you will learn different topics of analyzing literature and literary devices. That's not all of it. You will also know the tone, mood, technique, and author's purpose, and the literary device used. By the end of this course, you'll be able to analyze literature, determine the tone, mood, technique, and author's purpose, and explain literary device used. There are no prerequisites to take this module. So what are you waiting for? Get ready for more activities. Let's begin. Let us pray. Our loving Father, we praise and glorify your name each day. We thank you for all the blessings, especially the gift of life you showered us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn in this time of global pandemic. Bless our classmates, teachers, and school that we may bring hope to our community. We humbly ask for your forgiveness to all our shortcomings and help us to be a better person. Grant us wisdom, peace of mind, and a pure heart to be a blessing to other people. Father, we are grateful that you are true to your word, that you are with us and will not leave us. May you continue to bless us with your grace and love. We ask all these through Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen. Alright, once again, this is Teacher Rhizter, your English teacher for today. So let's have a few reminders before the class. First, check your headset or speakers if they work well. Next, find a quiet place where you can focus on the class. Prepare a paper and a pen for the activity. And get ready to learn. Alright, so let's get started. We are now in Quarter 2, Module 2, Lesson 1, Analyzing Literature as a Means of Understanding the World. Okay, so after going through this lesson, you are expected to, first, analyze literature as a means of valuing other people and their various circumstances in life. Second, determine the tone, mood, technique, and author's purpose. And third, explain literary device used. So I want you to have a piece of paper and answer a few questions. Are you ready? Let's try to know what you have in mind about this lesson. First, which of the following is the author's purpose when he wants to amuse you to enjoy writing? Is it A, to entertain, B, to explain, C, to inform, or D, to persuade? The correct answer is A, to entertain. Next, what is the purpose of advertisement? A, to entertain, B, to inform, C, to persuade, or D, to point out. If your answer is letter C, to persuade, you're probably correct. Next, tone can be best described as A, the overall mood or feeling in the story, B, the feelings of readers after reading, C, attitude of the reader toward what he or she is reading about, or letter D, author's attitude toward the subject he or she is writing about. The correct answer is letter D, author's attitude toward the subject he or she is writing about. Alright, next. What tone do the details of the poem convey? A Birthday by Christina Rossetti. My heart is like a singing bird, whose nest is a withered shoot. My heart is like an apple tree, whose boughs are bent with thick set fruit. My heart is like a rainbow shell that paddles in the halcyon, peaceful sea. My heart is gladder than all these because my love is come to me. Is it A, excitement, B, happiness, C, sorrow, or D, turmoil? The correct answer is letter B, happiness. Next, repetition is a great tool for helping make words more blank. A, annoying, B, effective, C, entertaining, or D, pessimistic. The correct answer is letter B, effective. Now next, which of the following would be considered the best usage of parallelism? A, he ate, read, and slept. B, they swarmed like ants. C, she is the meanest person I've ever met. Or D, I really like people who talk a lot and girls with dyed hair. The correct answer is letter A, he ate, read, and slept. Next, Colleen held her stomach and headed back to bed. She coiled and grabbed the blanket. She thought about the cold meal she ate from the fridge this morning. Colleen probably A, feels hungry, B, wishes to eat some more, D, wants to go back to sleep, or D, get a stomachache from eating the cold meal. The correct answer is letter D, gets a stomachache from eating the cold meal. Great, nice start. Now let's play. For this activity, this is entitled 3 Icons, 1 Concept. We're going to identify the words being suggested by the pictures below. So you guess the correct word by analyzing the pictures. Be guided by the number of lines and the letters as clues. Alright, so let's start. So I will be giving you 10 seconds to look at the pictures and write your answer on your paper. Let's begin. Number 1. The time starts now. Alright, so the correct answer is freedom. Very good. So let's go on to the next one. Let's start now. Alright, so the correct answer is discrimination. Okay, let's go on to the third one. Start. The correct answer is justice. Alright, and the next one. The correct answer is segregation. Alright, now this time, let's watch an inspiring speech of Martin Luther King Jr. So be prepared to pause and answer the questions posted in between the text.
At this time, I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation. I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition.
Alright, so let's pause it here. Now I want you to reflect on the second question. Do you know anyone in our history who was exiled in our own country?
Condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges.
All right, so let's hang on there and reflect on the third question. Do you favor forcing change using physical violence?
But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our body is heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
All right, now let's pause it again and reflect on the fourth question. What is your idea about justice and righteousness?
I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution, staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers.
Alright, let's hang on there again. I want you to reflect on the fifth question. Have you ever been misjudged because of your physical appearance? Or have you ever misjudged someone because of his or her physical appearance?
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning, my country tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghanies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California, But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Alright, so let's hang on again. So I want you to reflect on the next question. Can you say that you are free? How does it feel to be free? Alright, for this activity, we're going to discuss. So you answer the following questions. So I will be posting here. Number 1. What is the central idea or message of this speech? Number 2. What particular issues did Dr. King mention in his speech? Number 3. What are his dreams for America? Number 4. What issues did Dr. King address that are still relevant today, particularly in the Philippines? And number 5. I Have a Dream has inspired a number of people. What do you think makes this speech so inspirational? Alright, for this activity, you're going to fill in the graphic organizer. So as you can see in the table, it is subdivided into 2 sections. We have here the King's Dream and Your Dream. You're going to write it and you go over with the mojo. Alright, now let's learn literary and rhetorical devices. So what is a rhetorical device? Rhetorical device is a technique that an author or speaker uses to convey to the listener or reader a meaning with the goal of persuading them. Rhetorical devices evoke an emotional response in the readers through the use of language. So what is meant by literary devices? Literary device is a technique a writer uses to produce a special effect in his writing and to help readers understand his writing on a deeper level. Let's have a few more examples of literary device. The first one is the metaphor. A figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. Example, number 1. Kisses are the flowers of affection. Number 2. The falling snowflakes are dancers. We have here analogy. That's a comparison between 2 things, typically for the purpose of explanation or clarification. Example, the structure of an atom is like a solar system. The nucleus is the sun, and the electrons are the planets revolving around their sun. Next is the parallelism. It's used to persuade, motivate, and or evoke emotional responses in an audience and is often used in speeches. The balance between clauses or phrases makes complex thoughts easier to process while holding the reader's or listener's attention. Example, number 1. My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's from John F. Kennedy. Number 2. I don't want to live on in my work. I want to live on in my apartment. That's from Woody Allen. Next is the repetition. That's the repeating of a word or phrase, and it's common rhetorical device used to add emphasis and stress in writing and speech. Number 1, example. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Number 2, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. That's from Robert Frost, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Now let's learn tone and mood. Tone and mood both deal with emotion centered on a piece of writing. Though they seem similar and can in fact be related casually, they are in fact different. So what is tone? Tone is the author's attitude towards a subject. While journalistic writing theoretically has a tone of distance and objectivity, all other writings can have various tones. Next, what is mood? Mood is the atmosphere of a piece of writing. It's the emotion that a selection arouses in a reader. So we have here some tone words. Positive tone words, we have admiring, affectionate, benevolent, calm, casual, interested, joyful, lively, nostalgic, and passionate. For the neutral tone, we have commanding, direct, impartial, indirect, meditative. And for the negative tone words, we have annoyed, anxious, apathetic, bewildered, bitter. So we have also here the mood, the atmosphere of piece of writing. So some common mood descriptors are, we have here the positive mood words and the negative mood words. Positive, we have amused, bouncy, calm, cheerful, confident, mellow, nostalgic, optimistic, passionate, peaceful. For the negative, aggravated, dreary, embarrassed, exhausted, nauseated, numb, overwhelmed, painful, pessimistic, lethargic. Now let's learn the author's purpose, the 3 reasons for writing. Number 1, writing to entertain. The primary purpose of texts that are written to entertain is to amuse readers. Examples of texts that are written to entertain: first, stories, poems, dramas, and songs. Number 2 is writing to inform. So the primary purpose of texts that are written to inform is to enlighten the reader or to provide the reader with information about a topic. So examples of texts that are written to inform, we have here expository essays or articles, instructions or directions, encyclopedias or other reference texts. Number 3, writing to persuade. The purpose of text written to persuade is to compel readers to take action, to convince them of an idea through argument, or to reaffirm their existing beliefs. We have here the examples of texts that are written to persuade: advertisements, campaign speeches, and persuasive letters or notes. Now let's do this. We have here activity understanding rhetorical and literary devices. So you're going to read Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech again and pick out the rhetorical and literary devices used in the text. I'm going to fill in the table below. As you can see, there's a table subdivided into 2 sections. The first side is the rhetorical literary devices. We have here the parallelism, the metaphor, the analogy, and the repetition. And the other side, we have the text, I have a dream. Now let's do this activity, identifying tone and mood. So you trace the tone and mood words from the speech of Martin Luther King Jr. So you write the words on each of the speech balloons and identify the tone and mood on the space provided. Let's do this activity, identifying author's purpose for writing the selections. Let's start. Number 1, hamsters for sale. Humble Pet Store in the mall. We have a large selection of hamsters for sale this week, and they're interesting pets, and you will enjoy having one. Come and buy yours today. So what's the author's purpose? Number 2, watch for symptoms. People with COVID-19 have had a wide range of symptoms reported, from mild symptoms to severe illness. Symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. People with symptoms like fever or chills and cough may have COVID-19. To write the author's purpose. Number 3, the article details the many uses of a new multi-purpose tool. It explains how the tool can perform the task of a hammer, screwdriver, wrench, and a knife. It is 4 tools in one, so you will always have the tool you need when you have one of these. What's the author's part? Now let's do this activity, Black Lives Matter. So read a poem inspired by the Black Lives Matter campaign and answer the questions that follow. The Color of My Soul by Sia Mulch. As I travel back to my younger days, I remember my occluded mind, the doings of neighborhood and community. Being taught always, darkness is sorrow, white light is where peace and beauty you'll find. That black shirt needs no washing, as you cannot see its furrow. White ones should be cared. Hide yourselves with a black cloth, show yourself off to the world, with an angel ring that's white. My heart is about to rot. My mind with agony was already whirled. I shall now begin to fight, for my skin is dark, but is brighter than your soul. Now this time, let's try to answer some questions regarding the poem inspired with Black Lives Matter. Number 1. Why did the poet use darkness as a metaphor for sorrow? Number 2. What other metaphors were used by the poet? What is the black shirt an analogy of? And what words suggest the tone of the poem? And what is the purpose of the poet in writing the poem? This time, let's reflect. You're going to write your mission statement. We all have a dream to realize our own, but it does not stop us from dreaming for others as well. As we keep on dreaming, we are also facing challenges of the human spirit. My journey through this lesson enabled me to learn, and you're going to write it there. It made me realize that, and I therefore commit to. Now for this activity, let's reflect, writing big thoughts. Think about your biggest dreams. Read the passage again and check for statements that express Luther's dreams for America. Make a short list of these dreams and rank them according to their importance and use the table below. Next, write a short essay or speech using the passages as your guide in writing your own dreams for your family, fellow man, and country, and use a separate sheet for this activity. And number 4, you're going to submit your output via email for evaluation and to be posted in your social media to spread awareness as part of the task completion. So you will be rated according to the rubric here. You have the categories: clarity, details, accuracy, mechanics, and grammar. Alright, so I'm so glad in journeying with you up until this time. I hope that you will study hard and go over with your modules. I know that you can do it. Just focus and stay calm. This has been your teacher in English, Teacher Rhizter. See you next lesson.